Lager is a style that has been lambasted. It's been beaten down by marketing campaigns and macro brewers telling you what lager is. And, they're telling you what lager is because they're making a very refined, deep, industrial version of it in order to sell it.
And calling it premium.
Exactly.
Hello and welcome to the Beer Rep Chats with another episode and another guest that I'm delighted to be joined by, Peter Kennelly. He's head of sales at Pillars Brewery in London. Peter, thanks for joining the show.
No worries. Thanks for having me, Martin.
It's great to have you on. I'm a big fan of Pillars and all the lagers that they do. Absolutely, they're beautiful lagers. And we're going to be talking lager today. Yeah.
Oh, I could talk about it for literally weeks. Years.
It should be a pro at whatever question comes your way today then. So firstly, can you tell us a bit about your background and how you came to be head of sales at Pillars?
It's a long story, but I'll keep it brief. I think it's also, when I get asked this question, I'm quite excited to share in that it's something that I'm quite passionate about in terms of getting more people into the industry. And obviously everybody has their own different route. But so I came to London a long time ago from Dublin. I worked in restaurants and stuff in Dublin throughout my college, or uni as you call it over here, to pay the bills. And I always loved hospitality. I love food. But I never worked in pubs back home because the standard for entry into pubs in Dublin is quite high, which is a good thing. So anyway, moved over to London with the aspirations of being a sports journalist, which went down like a lead balloon pretty quickly as I realized that the likelihood of that happening, plus the impending rent costs kicked in. So I got a job in my local pub, which is, at the time I was living in Elphin Castle, so it was a pub on the South Bank, which is great. Really high volume pub, working and getting paid a pittance, but learnt loads. And something that kind of stuck with me, which doesn't happen or doesn't really exist back home in Dublin or Ireland, is cask beer. So the pub that I was working for was quite a big champion of cask beer. So I was it was a whole new realm of beer that I was introduced to, and it got me really excited about beer. But what also the most thing that excited me about cask beer was the whole cellaring process, looking after it. I was like, this is kind of like managing food, and you have an influence in the end product, which really excited me. I worked there for pub, worked my way up, and then I got a couple of other management jobs. But the big job that kind of changed my career, and I'm sure everybody who listens to this knows them and has an opinion on them, was I worked for BrewDog. And I was part of their management training course at BrewDog for a year. So that was, learning every element of beer dispense, BrewDog's ideology along the way, of course. And also what was really exciting was being part of a training program, a Cicerone program, which, to be fair, and I can't fault BrewDog. You can say many things about them now, but back then when I was there, the support we got in terms of training was incredible. And I still think, and you probably maybe have met or have interviewed many people, but there's almost like some sort of a Busby Babes kind of group of people that are now working in the beer industry that have come from BrewDog because of the skills and knowledge they learnt there. So I managed bars for BrewDog for about 4 years. And really enjoyed it. Got to travel the world, got to meet amazing brewers, do amazing events, learn the inside out of pouring to cellars to beer styles, getting up to second level Cicerone, which was great. So it was a really good way to get into the industry, and it's more importantly get into beer. And then I had a partner at the time, and she realized that the only time I'd see her would be maybe 11 p.m, 12 p.m, and she's asleep and I'm coming home throwing keys out the window. I was like, okay, can't really go on like this. I wanted to stay in the industry because I absolutely love pubs. I love beer. I love breweries. I love everything about it. But, I needed slightly better hours. So I went into the dark side, as it was considered back then, into the world of sales. I worked for eBeer Trade, which was an online marketplace, which was a very fast growing company at the time, lots going on. David, who was running at the time, a very smart man, and we were going at a rate of knots, and that was a really good learning curve in terms of speaking to customers, trying to figure out how to sell in general, because I never had any sales training or knew what I was kind of doing, thinking, yeah, here's the product, everybody loves it, off you go. When it was a lot more than that. So
it's not that simple. If only
it really thought it was back in the day, and it was. I guess context is everything. That was back 2015, 2016 when if you opened a pub down the road and someone walked in with a bottle of muddy water, they'd probably still buy it because everything's going fine, and I've got the margins, and people are trying new things. So it's a very different time now, obviously. So I worked at Ibra for about a year and a half, really enjoyed it. And then a colleague that I knew at BrewDog was working as head of sales for Siren Brewery. And, that was at the time and still are, I think, one of the best breweries in the UK. So getting kind of, like a brewery of that scale and that reputation asked me to be part of the sales team. I couldn't say no to that. So I worked with Siren for just under 3 years, really enjoyed my time there, mainly looking after the North and East London of their kind of accounts and building Siren and its reputation and its presence in my patch was a big part of the job and something I really enjoyed. What really, really took it to the next level from Siren, both personally and professionally, was understanding beer sales in general and I guess maybe taking a step back and kind of working smarter rather than harder in terms of how, why people should buy your beer and whatnot, and kind of understanding a little bit more of the strategy and the processes towards sales in a kind of bigger picture way without sounding too like wanky. And so from there, and then I actually met the guys at Pillars because I was selling Siren to them. I met Gavin and Omar, two of the founders. Unbeknownst to me, I only found this out via a LinkedIn post 6 months ago that, they were kind of considering me at that time through the interactions I was having with them when I was representing Siren. They really liked that, which was really humbling to find out.
Yeah.
So they kept their cards close to their chest, which I understand.
Yeah. I bet they were delighted when you approached them then.
Well, that was it. Yeah, the job went up and it was a combination of, I was living in Black Horse Road at the time, which is just one stop down from Walthamstow Central. So I was like, okay, well, this is a little bit closer than Siren, which is out near Reading. And also, I saw the market shifting towards lager. In terms of smaller independent lager, which I'm sure we'll talk about. The interactions I had with Gavin and Omar, I was just like, well, these are just really nice people. Like, that was my first and foremost kind of opinion, was like, these are people I could see myself working with. Yeah, and eventually they were looking to kind of expand or grow the sales team because they made a couple of changes in the business, and it was just kind of good timing and probably, a bit serendipitous, but also I think it's a lot of through hard work. It kind of, they offered me the job, and I've been at Siren now for just over 4 years. And things
Pillars,
are going. Sorry, Jesus, Pillars. I've been at Pillars for just over 4 years, and I absolutely love it.
That's a great story. I mean, you've gone from quite reputable companies as well, from BrewDog to Ibria. I mean, I think Ibria has been taken over by Beer 52 now. Is that correct?
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah, and then on to Siren. And I mean, what a great resume you got there.
Yes, it's all right.
So, Pillars started in 2016. Was it London's first specialist craft lager brewery, kind of in the sense where they only specialised in quality lagers, premium lagers?
So absolutely. Yeah, they're the first London independent brewery to focus on lagers and lagers alone. And it's quite nice chatting to you about this now, because it's our 10-year anniversary this year.
Lovely.
So Gav, Omar, and Sammy. Gavin is the odd one out in terms of he's not one of the brothers. Sammy, Eamon and Omar are three brothers, and then Gavin's one of Omar's best mates from college uni back in Sheffield. So the four lads started in 2016 in Walthamstow. And it's we are the first independent lager brewery in London, and it's been a wild ride. To be honest, 10 years, lots has happened in 10 years.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, was brewing lager Pillars like plan? Was it always going to be we're going to be lager focused only? And what were the advantages of that, and what challenges were that of that facing, just brewing that style? Yeah,
so I was doing a little bit of prep, and I was listening to your chat with I think it's Jacob from Hackney Church. Really, really lovely guy. I've never met him, but
definitely.
It sounded great, and that was a really, really good interview. And it was you guys kind of touched on it, like lager. And I think he said it, or maybe it was yourself, is that there's nowhere to hide. It's
there isn't. So you can make one mistake and that's it.
Yeah,
whole batch is ruined.
Exactly. It was the guys. They wanted to be lager focused from the very beginning, and ale yeast has never gone into the brewery or entered the brewery, and hopefully that never will happen. The goal is for ale yeast never to enter the building. And yeah, there's so many challenges that come with that. At the time in 2016, yourself and your viewers can transport yourself back there 10 years ago, which probably feels like 50.
It certainly does.
Yeah, the craft beer market was a very different place. It was BrewDog, of course, was thriving at the time, and you had your Kernels, you had your Cloudwater starting their V series, and everything was just going like, it was how many hops can we put in everything, and or how much ABV can we get out of this stout. So it was a very different world because people were probably sick of the mass industrialized lager, so you wanted something very different, which was completely fair. So the guys did start at a challenging time, but yeah, they've stuck with it, and it was a big risk, and it's massive kudos to the four guys that they did it, because it's I'm going to say it's come good, but think that the market has changed very much in lager's favor. Not saying it's easy, but the demand and the appreciation for good lager is growing, which is something that we're very happy about.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you've won many awards, Pillars, including national and international recognition for its Pilsner and other lagers that you do. What impact does that have on your sales conversations and position? And I mean, I'm guessing it helps quite a lot to say that you've won awards and stuff like that. I mean, how much do your customers really take that on board when they're deciding to stock your product?
Yeah, it definitely has its benefits. I see sales as kind of like you're facing a brick wall, or human brick wall, and you want to have tools in your belt to kind of bring bit by bit that wall down, to get someone to really engage and understand what you're trying to achieve. So certain people or buyers will definitely be looking for award-winning breweries and be searching it out. It gives the brand and the beers a little bit more validity, that maybe wasn't there. I find there's certain awards that we've won that I think the brewers specifically, they'd say are really, really proud of. Winning SIBA's award last year for best keg session lager in the UK. For me, that's an award that is something to really shout about. I probably shouldn't say, but there's a lot of beer awards out there that I don't trust. There's a lot of beer awards, and we could probably have a whole separate podcast on beer awards.
100%.
So yeah, but like there's awards that the guys, the brewers have won that I think really, really give kudos to what they're trying to achieve, like the SIBA Award, like the World Beer Awards, especially with the Eisbock. That I think really give the beer validity, and it definitely helps, puts the walls down, as I say. But it's only one small chink against the wall of bricks. But it's something you can have in your tool belt if needed.
Yeah, definitely. So when you're pitching like Pillars against the big global brands like your Heinekens, your Carlin, or your Madries that are brewed in England, them sort of beers that are everywhere. I mean, obviously, before we even look at access to market in most of these pubs, what's the hardest objection you hear from pubs or buyers?
Yeah, Jesus, there's so many. There's so many.
Top five.
Top five, yeah. So I guess it's price. It can't be ignored, and especially now as the market for pubs and restaurants is getting more and more challenging. It's super important, and we can't deny that. So price is definitely up there. Access, you kind of touched on it there. Access to market. Again, we could probably have 10 offshoot podcasts based on my opinions, but the fact that I could live in, let's say, Waltham Forest, for example, and there's 100 pubs in Waltham Forest, but as a small independent brewery, I could only have access to one or two based on your breweries that you talked about and the big pub chains where they really tie down the lines. So that's huge. As someone going out trying to sell beer, there's some pubs that I just don't even bother going in because it's completely wasted my time. because I know we're not listed with, a huge pub co, or we're not, part of Coors' portfolio or Heineken's portfolio. And, it's frustrating because if you're a cheesemonger and you're making amazing cheese, you want everybody to try your cheese and you want to go to the local shop and sell your cheese. I'm not affiliated with the cheese world and how it works, but I'm sure there'll be some similar idiosyncrasies of how you can get your cheese out there. So, it's unfortunately the UK beer market is not a meritocracy. There's amazing beers out there, but they don't have access to market. So pricing is one. Route to market is definitely up there in terms of getting access. And then it's probably tied into pricing, but the support that the massive breweries can give new pubs or current pubs is incredible for the pubs. But obviously, it's disheartening to see when you open a pub and I've mentioned before, Coors can go in and they go, well, don't worry, I'll look after all your lines, all your cooler. That's 10, 15k, 20k expense. Don't worry, it's all on me. Just sign this massive, huge document and don't read through the small font, kind of like Willy Wonka Chocolate Factory.
Yeah.
They go, yeah, great, and we'll give you one free line, but by the way, if you want one free line, you do have to sell 6 million brewers barrels of our beer first. So you could just put another one of our products on that line and you'll get closer to hitting your targets. And, so stuff like that. Obviously, I'm being a bit glib, but, that's a huge part of it. That as a small brewery where, we're a small team, our cost of production is high. So we can't do that. We have done some cool stuff working with other breweries where we can help, make a little bit of an independent co-op and kind of work hand in hand. So, I think those would probably be the top three.
Yeah, I think definitely the whole pub model needs to be looked at because it's crazy. So obviously we touched on the price and he said it's a real barrier. Is it still like perception education around what good lager actually is? Do people associate lager as being a cheap beer version that they can go and drink lots of and, get wasted, have a good night? Premium lager these days, especially independents like yourself, has come along on such a long way. Do you think it's still with the regular customer? Are they looking more towards price or are they looking more towards premium? Do they think that these global brands are premium beers, lagers?
Yeah, God, it's such a good question. And when you're saying customers, in my mind, I'm talking about like the pubs and restaurants I'm selling to. Yeah, it is. Education is huge. It's. This is what I love. I love this industry because there's trends and there's evolutions of certain styles and educational pieces I think are so important. You can't ignore what the likes of Guinness are doing in terms of the pour doing, or maybe their drinkers are doing and all the influencers are doing. It's educating people that there's more that goes into a pint than you think. Yeah, what we're trying to do at Pillars is kind of is showcase to our customers that you can get what we think world class lager, lager that is trying to get as close to Bavarian quality or Bohemian quality, but made 2 miles up the road, 4 miles up the road, 10 miles up the road, or even in the same country as you. Because for us, lagers, or not for us, but in general, lager is a style that has been lambasted. It's been beaten down by marketing campaigns and macro brewers telling you what lager is. And they're telling you what lager is because they're making a very refined, deep industrial version of it in order to sell it. And
calling it premium.
Exactly.
Yeah. When you come and taste this premium Kronenberg, no thanks.
they just put a couple of ABV on it and call it premium. And so it's a combination of how it's been marketed and how it's been produced. It's such a good question because we're going to be more expensive than your macro breweries because believe it or not, we actually lager our beers for 6 weeks. You can do a deep dive and you read some good books by Mark Dredge, the lager book, and he did the hardcore research to understand how long do you think it takes to make a batch of Carling, i.e. Madry. So just I think as people are becoming more discerning, drinkers are becoming more aware. They want to know what they're consuming. I think it's happening in the food world as well. What's really cool is you see M&S bring out a range of foods that are literally just 5 ingredients. God, I'd love if beer did the same, because if people really knew what was going into their can of Cruz Campo or Madry, I would love the laws to change and tell you where it's being produced, what's actually going into it, what's the process, is it adhering to certain styles? But again, you need a benchmark of styles, and in this country, we there's no real hard and fast rule about styles. This whole country is based on, and I think I'm not having a go at this country. It's more the industry and tradition is based on ABV. Perfect example. I had 2 customers come to the brewery this morning, and I'm like, help me understand, what's your plans, blah, 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 usual chat. And the guy said, I don't know anything about lager. And I was like, well, that's fantastic. You're a blank slate for me to tell you what lager really is, or help you understand what it is. And then, as you say, other people have a preconceived notions of what lager is, and because they were sold ads in the 70s, the 80s, or they thought that X lager is this. So, the job is just I ask a lot of people, well, what's your perceptions of lager? What does lager mean to you? And I bring customers to the brewery, and I have 10 people sitting in front of me, and I ask them the same question: what does lager mean to you? And I will get 10 massively different varying answers. People will say, oh, it represents this, it's fizzy yellow liquid, and then I can bring out our ice bock, this is a lager, and blow their minds, so it's a very personal thing, especially for certain drinkers, which is great. The passion is there. People are so passionate about their lagers, but certain things about their lagers, they might be slightly misinformed, and I just want to open a door to what proper lager looks like and tastes like, and just help guide them through it, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the quality of lager brewed in the UK has come on massively in the last decade. What do you think has driven that shift? Why do you think more people, more independent breweries in particular, are starting to brew better lager?
But yeah, no, that's another great question. I think it's multifaceted. I think the skill level of brewers in this country have increased exponentially.
Yeah.
I think we're making, I would put my hands and put my heart on the line saying I think some of the best beer in the world is being brewed in the UK right now. But obviously that doesn't happen overnight. I think, with the craft beer wave came with that, and brewers trying different things, trying different styles, just like any industry, like chefing, gardening, you go out, you learn things, and you reincorporate that. So that's definitely had a massive impact. I think, technology with it has come with it in terms of brewing technology, cooling technology. I'm not a brewer. You probably know better than me, but I think it's. I'm not saying it's easy to make lager. It really isn't. But the ways in are definitely. It's not as scary.
Is there specific markets or types of venues you're targeting more aggressively this year or next year? What sort of venues are you going to the most, because you've got more of a chance of getting Pillars Lager in their venue?
Yeah, the top line answer obviously is, when you're looking at venues, you're going after the ones that can buy your beer, without sounding too simplistic, and that's definitely it. I think, there's lots of pubs now that are becoming the hubs of their community, and you kind of have to focus on the pubs where, say, there's a train strike tomorrow or there's a snowstorm. You have to be smart on where you're putting or focusing your time, so that, even if things are happening that you can't control, there's still people going to the local pub. So, focusing on venues that are seen as the place to be without sounding too simplistic is really important. And I think what's really important as well is focusing on pubs or venues where, influential people are going to go. So say you go out for drinks because you're a man with extreme knowledge on beer, but you might have friends who just don't care, which is great, which I love. So you go for, they go, Aaron, where are we going for drinks? You know your stuff. And then you'll take 3-4 of your mates to this amazing pub that's got an amazing selection of independent breweries. And they go, well, what am I drinking? Because I don't know any of this. And you'll guide them through it. And I think every group of friends has a Martin, has a Peter that is going to, help them enter into the world of beer. And so
if they haven't, they should. Exactly. They should get yourself a Martin and a Peter to take you to these lovely venues.
100%. The world would be a better place.
It certainly would. And
so, yeah, you got to know where's your Martin going, where's your Peter going, and make sure that because one of their mates could go and they be drinking, insert macro average lager here all their lives, and then they go and have a pint of Pillars Hell as a Pillars Pilsner, and they go, oh my God, I didn't realize lager tastes like this, Well, yeah, thanks to you, you've got someone new as the business. So that's kind of, you just got to be smart, and you got to do your research and understand where people are going. And then the other probably avenue we're focusing, because well, there's two reasons why we're going after these kind of venues. I focus a lot on restaurants. One, I'm an absolute massive foodie. I'm a failed chef, and I love just the chaos of restaurants, but also the controlled chaos of restaurants. And myself and my wife, we go out for meals as often as we can, because fortunately we're in London, so we have a plethora of choices. And so I want to work with restaurants where I can hopefully get a discount or a free meal. I'm not going to lie. But also, these are the restaurants that won't be tied, They'll go, okay, I'm opening my second site, or I'm opening my first site. I've got an amazing, argument's sake, I'm going to have the best Hong Kong style food in London, and I'm going to have amazing cocktails, amazing wine. A lot of them now, these restaurateurs, these managers are going, well, we need every element of our business to be the best it can be in order to get people here, because London's competitive, and people might not be spending, so they want every element to be as good as possible. So they're like, well, who's making the best lager, or who's making the best pale, and they're more embracing of product, less so of price. Obviously, they want a good price, but for them, it's about the whole holistic experience for the customer. So who's going to help me, give that to my customer? Unfortunately, we've built a nice reputation where people go, well, who are the lager people? Well, yeah, it makes sense to be working with Pillars. So focusing on that definitely is a big part of it. And yeah, may need to get some free meals.
What innovations and trends in the lager brewing world are exciting you the most right now, and how is that going to how might that influence how you sell in the future?
Yeah, I'm going to sound like quite a nerd here.
I love nerdiness.
I think it's definitely a knock on from what's happening with Guinness. And that is certain breweries like Budvar, for example. I think, and maybe Bohem as well, understanding, and it's like trying to tell someone, specifically a certain demographic in the UK, trying to tell them that the world is indeed flat, or trying to completely change their mind or something. But it's the pour of a lager. Pouring a lager with a huge, chunky, foamy, thick head
for a side pour.
Yeah, exactly. And obviously, we're not a Czech brewery, but or even Germany. You go to Germany and you get a Stein and a brewery, and it's going to have this lovely, rich, foamy head. I think that's an innovation that, Budvar are doing great works on it. We're doing it. So I had a perfect pour training as part of all my new installs, and I had some with the new restaurant last week, and then I saw on their Instagram they'd had a little post of it, and the owner of the business, because it was their soft launch, and he was actually doing the pour exactly how I said. So he had this lovely thick head in the beer, and I was like a proud parent. And I was like, I wasn't even like, I didn't even like force him. I was like, he was intrigued at how to do it, and I showed him, and in terms of how you pour and keeping the glassware clean. So I think, to come back to your question, the innovation for me is getting super nerdy with the pour and the glassware, because it's so important, and I think it's kind of somewhat been forgotten as pubs are struggling to survive, and maybe training budgets are reduced. But I speak with Omar. I actually have got a call meeting after this with someone who's going to help us ensure that the pours and the glassware, and we're giving all our customers the support as possible, because at the end it's all about the customer having an amazing experience, because they're going to be paying a little bit more. You can go to your spoons and get your cheap lager, which is absolutely fine. But if you want to go get your lager that's 6, 7, or who cares, who knows, £8, you want to make sure the whole experience is amazing. And so, because you look at the Devonshire and various other Guinness pubs, people are like treating their Guinness like it's, world changing. It's just because they're looking after the details, and that's what I'd love to see kind of come into the lager world.
Like when you go into a restaurant, you have a meal, and if it's all laid out or looks lovely, automatically your brain's going to tell you this is going to taste good. If it looks inviting, it's going to taste inviting before it's even hit your taste buds, and that's key. So, what would you say? Talking about food, what's your go-to Pillars lager and food pairing after a long day out on the sails? You've been out of all around London. You want to come home or go out, whatever one. What would be your ideal pairing?
Well, I know. I was thinking about this. Like, it's there's so many. I think for me, it's a combination of things. I feel like all my answers is a combination of things. It was a cop out. I sound like a politician. I think Well, one restaurant that really sits nicely with me in my heart is Mangal 2 in kind of Stoke Newington, Dalston. And they do incredible elevated kind of Turkish food. It's a family-run business. And I think having a really well produced, crisp, super delicious, easy drinking lager alongside, charcoal meats, I think, or even charcoal veg, or, it's for me, it's the perfect combination. So like the three brothers, Omar, Sami, and Ayman, they're of Iraqi heritage. And so every year we have the Pillars barbecue for the staff in summer, and they bring all their like mini barbecues out, and they're just making incredible meat in the sun and some vegetables, just cooking it over charcoal that's been, it's been marinated for a couple of days. Omar's an amazing chef, and Gavin as well was doing it as well with some of the meats, and just getting some really, really good food, well marinated over the coals, and then just a really crisp cold pint. It's like, there's a few things better.
Things that memories are made of.
Yeah.
You never forget that day of drinking beautiful lager, beautiful food. And it'll just, you'd want it again. You'd be like, I've got to do that again.
We've done it now every year for the past 3 years with all the team, and it's great. Everyone just like, brewers finally get to get out of the brewery, and we just set up an area outside the tap room, and we just kind of take over the street, put out a load of tables, load of food, and then everybody's mingling, and it's just class.
Yeah, lovely. I like a really nice crisp lager with an Indian food. I think the balance between the spice and the crisp lager is that's my food pairing. If anyone wants that as their 2p, but yeah.
No, it's funny. Actually, that was my meeting this morning. Is with an Indian restaurant, but they actually do like Indian pizzas, and he was like trying our Pilsner, and he's like, "Oh, this is gonna be perfect with our pizzas." But yeah, so yeah, you're dead right.
Yeah. What's your most memorable or unusual place that you've sold Pillars to?
Yeah, it's actually last week, and it was an inbound that came in, so organically, which is always the nicest when someone, you don't have to go and give them the hard sell. They already knew who we were, and they tried our beers, and it was a fishmonger's, and I was like, cool. I was like, all right, we'll see how this goes in. So I rock up, and it was no ordinary fishmonger's. And the best thing about I knew it was a good fishmonger is when you walk in and you see all the fish, but it doesn't smell of fish. You're like, oh, well, this is proper fresh fish. But it's also a deli. And I was like, okay, cool, nice. So he's selling some bottles and wines and tin sardines and stuff like that. And I was chatting away to him, amazing guy, and lovely man, Bob. And he was telling me, and they have little tables outside, and he was just like, oh, do you want to eat? Do you have lunch? I was like, oh, I just had lunch. He's like, well, you're an idiot. I was about to make some food for you. And I was like, okay, well, what's going on? And his chef comes up with a massive plate of sea bream with like a chimichurri sauce and just some like roasted tomatoes beside it. He's like, please have some. So anyway, we sat down. Before I even told him about Pillars, we sat down, had half the sea bream each, which was incredible. I was like, why does this taste so good? He's like, well, it literally came off the boat this morning. I was like, okay. Anyway, and so then we went downstairs, and underneath the fishmongers was a lounge bar. And I was like, okay, this is really cool. And it was a kind of cocktail lounge bar. And it was like half designed by his partner who was into jewelry and stuff. So it was all this weird stuff on the walls, and it was so odd. And then we went back upstairs, and he wanted to get keg beer. And then in comes his two twin daughters who are also working in the fishmonger. They came in from school and then put on their aprons and started helping customers get their fish. And then found out that he's Cat Stevens' nephew. He was just an amazing character, and the venue was like such a part of the community. People were coming in and saying, "Oh yeah, what's the crack? How's it going? What's happening with this? How's the kids? Oh yeah, I'm off on holiday." And like then another person came in and they were waiting to get their fish, and then I might get a beer, and they were just sitting down, and it was just like this beautiful hubbub of people. It was amazing, and it was like all in a fishmonger's that also has like cocktail bar downstairs. And I was like, this is what hospitality is all about. And I was like, and it was a family-run independent business as well, so it really aligned with us. And I was just like, yeah. So I think from just looking like a fishmonger's on the outside, it was also a restaurant, a cocktail bar, a community hub, and your man was just absolutely hilarious. He was great, and finding out that Cat Stevens was his uncle was even better. So yeah, so it was super memorable. And I've told many people about this place since, and it was only last week. And yeah, we're going to be working with them, and I'm going to help them set up their first draft beer dispense. So it's going to be a bit of a journey for us to go through together, but it's going to be fun.
What's this place called?
It's called Bourne's Fishmongers. It's in Belsize Park. If anyone's around that part of the world. So it's in Belsize Park Village, really, really nice part of the world. I was just happy to walk around there and just look at these huge houses that I'll never be able to afford. But it was.
We all do that.
Yeah. I was like, holy, how do people? But yeah. So it's Bourne's Fishmongers. They've got our bottles in now, but we're literally in the process of sorting out a little Linda machine for them and sourcing all the line cleaning and everything. So hopefully have some delicious pints soon.
That's amazing. Yeah, that's great. Yeah, get yourself down there. Enjoy some pillars and some great fish.
Yeah, the fish is amazing.
Yeah. So finally, final question of the day. It's been absolutely brilliant chatting about pillars and lager and how great lager is in the UK compared to the others, should we say? So finally, what would you like the audience to take away about why a great lager matters and why Pillars is worth seeking out and trying if they haven't already?
Yeah, I think first and foremost, and I'm sure everybody will say this, but I wouldn't be here working for Pillars if I didn't think so. But taking everything I've said off the table, the product that the brewers make is incredible. Like, I implore all the audience to come to the brewery or get in touch with me and I'll send them some samples. Like, I think the beer that the brewers make that is so good. So that's one good if you like good lager, that's one good reason. I think what also is a good reason to reach out is, we can change people's perceptions, and you've touched on it. There's some other great lager breweries in the UK. Change people's perceptions of lager, and you'll be starting a new journey, maybe like we did back in the day when we realized that, if you dry hop a beer, it can taste like X, or, if you use this yeast strain, it's hazy, but it's delicious. And, I think this is a new journey that people can go on. And I think, I might be damaging my CV in the future, but these massive breweries, the profits are going to, a certain very small group of people, and more often than not offshore. But, if you're buying from your independent lager brewery or brewery in general, you're helping us hire more people, which in terms means we're going to buy more from our suppliers down the road, or help our estate out, or help out our communities do more amazing charity events. The effect of working with a good independent brewery, the knock-on of that is huge. When, do Coors need another zero at the end of their profits this year? I don't know. It's a very rhetorical question. So I think, and give UK lager a chance, because it's like us. You talk about Utopian, you could talk about Braybrook, you could talk about so many amazing lager breweries. There's so much space out there for incredible UK lager, and give it a try, because you'd be very surprised. And you'll be doing good not only for your customers to give them a better product, but you'll be doing good to help support our industry and help us support our people and the knock-on effect of that, rather than going to a big boardroom and a CEO in Amsterdam.
Yeah, for sure. So a quick thing that I wanted to touch on. Is there a reason why Pillars only operates in bottles and not cans? Is it to do with flavour? Is it the way you store it? I mean, is there a reason why you don't do it in cans and just bottles?
So the guys we did a rebrand in 2020. And with the rebrand came a new font, came a new identity. And with that also came a new head brewer who was extremely talented. And with him, Marius is his name, amazing brewer. He ensured that we had the product to back up the word we talked about earlier, premium, because premium is something that can be easily marketable, to make a product more expensive, even though it's the same product as the non-premium version. So we wanted to have a brand and to have a vessel that represented that. Because I think most likes of BrewDog, Beavertown, Camden, they very much normalized hoppy beers in cans when, not many people were doing it back in the day. But with lager, we wanted to ensure that with our brand, we wanted to have the vessel that represented that. I wish I'd have a bottle here, to be honest. That showcases, because we have, for your customers that don't know, we have quite a stubby, unique bottle. And so we wanted with our branding, it looked better on the bottle from an aesthetic point of view. And then also, as we wanted to grow into the restaurant world and the hotel world, and stand out, on a shelf in a bottle shop, bottles helped. It's funny, they're still called bottle shops, even though 90% of it is cans.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah,
a can shop. So we wanted to.
It doesn't have the same effect, does it? Can shop, bottle shop.
No,
Well,
can shop.
I would always say bottle shop as well.
Yeah, it's just can shop seems quite derogatory as a bottle shop. Anyway, it's more how it rolls off the tongue. So yeah, we just wanted to stand out. It aligned with the brand and the rebrand that we did. So yeah, it wasn't a smart decision logistically, because those bottles were, one, hard to source, and two, hard to bottle. In bottling lines, most bottling lines are set for your standard long neck or your 500 ml, Bishop's Finger style bottles. We made things hard, but if it's not going to be a little bit hard, then what's the point?
Sets you apart as well, doesn't it, from other brands?
100%. Yeah, exactly.
I think that's what the main thing was, is it's make you have your own separate little niche.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's amazing. Well, that's a great little story to finish on. Pete, it's been amazing talking to you. We've proper rambled on, and I've enjoyed every minute of it. I enjoy a good ramble. I love a good ramble. I do. To everyone listening, please check out Pillars. Have a look on their website. Check your Untapped, see where it's being served, and check out the lagers because they are absolutely amazing. I do implore you to check them out. Peter, thanks for coming on the show. And we'll catch you again in another couple of weeks for our next guest. Who could it be? We'll see. Until then, catch you later.
Cheers.
Bye-bye. Cheers.